Vice President Harris has risen quickly within the Democratic Party. She ran for her first statewide office here in California back in 2010. Back then, Harris was the district attorney of San Francisco running for state attorney general. This week, the New York Times published an article titled "The 47 Seconds That Saved Kamala Harris's Political Career." It focused on a little-known debate in Davis between Harris and her Republican challenger for Attorney General Steve Cooley. Moderating the debate was then KCRA 3 political reporter Kevin Riggs. Kevin's here tonight to talk about how that small debate at UC Davis became a real turning point in Harris's political career. So before we get to this key moment, let's just set the table here. What did that race look like, and what was at stake for Kamala Harris in this debate?
What people have to remember is that at the time, most of the media focus was on the governor's race. You had Jerry Brown seeking to return to the governorship after a 28-year absence. He was running against Republican Meg Whitman, the billionaire ex-CEO of eBay. And so it was such a compelling storyline that consumed most of the oxygen. So in the context of that, you had LA County District Attorney Steve Cooley, the Republican, who was given a real strong chance at winning statewide. He was a moderate. He had been elected and re-elected. Most importantly, he came from vote-rich Southern California and was well known in Southern California, and that gave him a huge advantage over the San Francisco DA Kamala Harris. The polls were very close, and so heading into this debate, the stakes were very high for both candidates.
Okay, so you've set the table here. Let's show you the question that may have won her the election. This was a question about Steve Cooley double dipping, which is taking both a public salary and a public pension.
Attorney General makes about $150,000 a year, which is less than half what you made last year as District Attorney of LA County.
Right.
If you win November's election, do you plan to double dip by taking both a pension and your salary as Attorney General?
Yes, I do. I earned it. 38 years of public service. I definitely earned whatever pension rights I have, and I will certainly rely upon that to supplement the very low, incredibly low salary that's paid to the state attorney general.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
Go for it, Steve.
When you get there, you'll want yours too.
You've earned it. There's no question.
Pretty definitive.
There's no question. She just kind of let that sit. And keep in mind, at the time, the average Californian was making in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. This job pays six figures. So as you were watching that unfold, what was going through your mind?
Well, you know, you never know in the moment what the impact or what the effect of something like that's going to be. But it was clear that he had made a major misstep in talking about pensions and complaining about the size of the salary of the Attorney General. And so, you know, I remember distinctly when he answered the question, there was this atmospheric shift in the room. You could feel it. In Mark Fine and Weatherspeak, it was an atmospheric pressure drop, you know? And it was clear he had made a mistake. Harris herself, as you saw, didn't really respond much in the moment, but her campaign quickly recognized the value of weaponizing that comment, which they used very effectively in TV ads in the final weeks of the campaign. And we saw the outcome. She won by less than a percentage point. So was it the determinative factor in the outcome of the race? I'm not sure I can say that, but it certainly was a very key factor given the very close nature of the race.
And in fact, it was so close, he declared victory on election night, and then she squeaked out just within a percentage point.
And it took, I think, 3 weeks to actually finalize the outcome.
Okay, so you have that, you know, just kind of squeaking in there with the help of the ad based on that debate. Then, of course, she becomes a U.S. Senator, Vice President, and now the Democratic nominee for President. Do you think that these days that political futures can still depend on one statement or a moment in a debate? And I'm kind of thinking about the fact that her campaign used that mostly in Los Angeles, I think, but today everyone can post anything all over the place. Those moments can go viral and have an even bigger reach. Yeah,
it's changed. I mean, you never can tell, again, what the impact is going to be, because there are so many factors that determine the outcome in a race, whether it's, you know, the opponents and what the opponent says, whether it's fundraising, whether it's the party performance. But it is very clear that you don't know at the time what the significance is going to be down the road. I look now in 2024, what we know know now. And I think back, I feel very privileged to have been in that room there at UC Davis to watch that happen and to see the political rise of Kamala Harris. But we didn't know it at the time, and that the same is true now. I mean, absolutely, one mistake can make a big difference, and it's especially more true now because of the rise of social media and the influence of social media, especially now compared to 2010.
And in 3 weeks, we're going to see the first debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. What are you expecting? I guess I'll just leave it open-ended.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly, given the volatility of campaign season, these debates are going to be very important. A lot of people are going to be watching these debates, and a lot of people have already made up their minds, okay, given the nature of this race. And we know what California is going to do, for example. But I think the key to those debates is who watches and in what states. And so you have these 7 key swing states out here in the West, Nevada and Arizona. Down south, you have North Carolina and Georgia, then Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in the Northeast. And it's those undecided or wavering voters there who are watching and who will carry away their impressions. That's where you're going to see the real impact of these debates. But clearly, they're going to have a very important impact.
Kevin, thank you as always for joining us.